Welcome to my new apartment! Here I am, and it's so quiet in this neighborhood that I feel like everyone's gonna hear me for once and not the other way around. You know what I am saying? They definitely do. Hey Sheila. And please just like ignore this. I gotta figure out what to put on that. Should I just stand here the whole video? These are all of the books that I've read in the last 6 months. Actually, probably in the last 3 months, to be honest, because I've been like swallowing the books. I have read more in the last 6 months than I have in the last 6 years, and I think it's because the more time that passes, the more connected we become, and the more I realize there are very few activities that I do that's uniquely for me and for me to make my own thoughts on it. Books don't talk back. They don't comment back, they don't like back, they don't share. They just are, and it's beautiful. Because for once, you can look at a page, read it, digest it, and have your own thoughts without somebody else's opinions raining on your parade. I'm telling you, y'all, books are the new social media. I'll be there. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Mine is Jo Franco. Damon's is Damon Dominique. There's Damon and Jo and Shut Up and Go, which is our company page. If you want to know about the exact books that I'm talking about, click in the description box below. I'll give you the time codes of what kinds of books I'm talking about. And let's get started. Showering in book, showering in knowledge. In the self-help category, this isn't really self-help. This is more of like a guidebook category, but for your life. 52 Small Changes for the Family. This book is talking about small changes that you and your family can discuss every week for 52 weeks. That's 52 weeks in a year. If you didn't know that, you're already learning something from the book. And you're probably wondering, Jo, you don't have a family. I do have like brother, sister, mom, and like dad, but like, you know, I don't have my own family, and this is exactly what this book is designed for. But I do not judge a book by its cover. And instead I judge it by a random page that I happen to open to when I first glance at it, and I happened to open to this page that was about values. It was basically saying, we have hard decisions in life, and if you understand your values, and if you and your family sit down and discuss what your values are, and you align on those values, then you, as an individual and as a family, will have a better compass to make hard decisions. So instead of being like, do I do that, do I not, you could always revert back to your value list that you've already identified, and you could say, does this fall in line with my values? Yes, okay, it's a good decision. If not, nope, it's not on my value list. That is something so small that I literally learned from the first 5 seconds of picking this book up. Another page that a lot of you actually saw in my Instagram story was about friendship. And the chapter was basically telling you, like, there is statistical evidence that having friendships in one's life makes them happier, reduces hypertension, reduces risk of diseases, gives them more emotional support. And like, I posted that on my story and y'all was like, I need that book, Jo. What's the title? And I didn't know the title because I simply walked into the store, loved the page, took a picture, and left the store. And once I saw all of your DMs, I went back to the store to buy the book for this here video. So you're welcome and thank you, because this book has taught me more than just about values and family and stuff like that. It also tells you what essential oils do for your body. It tells you what products to avoid so that you're not intoxicating you and your loved ones. This is a good book, especially if you're like moving away from the home. This is your guidebook to helping yourself and others. Now, if you're watching this video, you're most likely a Homo sapien. You're most likely a human being, unless you're a dog or a cat, in which case, adorable. If you are of the human species, I recommend this book, Sapiens. Sapiens is huge. I haven't gotten through the entire book because it's very like dense. It's like I'm studying to take an anthropology, sociology, and just like history of humanities course. And that's why it's so important, because it'll tell you about our ancestors. Like all of us, whether we're black, white, yellow, brown, we all have common ancestors because we're all of the same species, and we forget that a lot of times. I haven't finished this book, but some of the things that I've like retained are really interesting. There's a part in this book that talks about how human beings are the only species on Earth that we know of that have the power to believe in a myth. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, are we talking about like Beowulf? No, like one of the worst books, by the way, like not my favorite book. Myths as in like, if you believe in money, you're believing in a myth. Because money is not real unless we assign it value, but it only has value if we're all in agreement of its value. Dogs can't do that. Butterflies don't do that. Cats don't do that. And so with this, we're able to join large groups of people with an invisible thing, which is the myth, whether it's money or an LLC, money. Companies are made up things. Brands are completely made up. There's nothing tangible about them.
Why do I believe in the cowrie shell or gold coin or dollar bill? Because my neighbors believe in them. And my neighbors believe in them because I believe in them. And we all believe in them because our kings believe in them and demand them in taxes. The crucial role of trust explains why our financial systems are so tightly bound with our political, social, and ideological systems, why financial crises are often triggered by political developments, and why the stock market can rise and fall depending on the way traders feel that particular morning.
Like, we use money to get tangible things. So I can't eat money. I can't drive money. I use money to buy a car. I use money to eat. Oh my god, this thing, like, this part of this book blew my mind. Back in the day, when men and women wanted to procreate, they would assume that if more men ejaculated into the woman, like, ew, Joe, gross, that the baby that one woman would carry would have all of the best qualities of those individual genes. AKA, they was polyamorous in this bitch, and before all the hipsters came along with the idea. Wow, I didn't know that, and you probably didn't either. Maybe you did. I don't know. Anyways, really good read if you have patience to sit through 500 pages. Are we learning here? It's gonna be a long ass video. This next book is nonfiction, and it was recommended by my book agent because, you know, she's trying to get her book off the ground, you know what I'm saying? It's coming, it's coming, it's coming, wait up, wait up, wait up, wait up. I was writing about my incident, like when I got shot, right? And I was writing about it in such a, not superficial level, but in a way that I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable, because I don't, that's not my goal, but what happened to me was very serious. And so how do you convey that in writing? It was very challenging until my book agent recommended this book, The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. She's an author and she writes both fiction and nonfiction, but what's really crazy about this book is that it kind of opened the door to how her emotions unraveled when she saw her husband of several years die in front of her. And it sounds really morbid because it's like a book of pure raw emotion of what this woman is going through, like this whole year of grieving her husband's loss, and her daughter is sick. The agent recommended this so that I could read what it sounds like when somebody's opening up their deepest, darkest fears and putting them on the piece of paper. Look, I read this in 3 days, cover to cover, man, and I was just like, this writing is so raw and so vulnerable that it makes me want to do the same thing, and it like inspires me to know that it's okay, because I got so much from reading her story and her vulnerabilities that it made me want to give that to everybody who reads my future book. She also lives between New York and LA, and there's some really cool like travel aspects of it because she talks about like the differences, and she was considering living in Honolulu, and it's like a bunch of flashbacks intertwined with the present day. It's brilliant. Really good book. And similar to my story, anytime that there's a death or a near-death experience, it kind of makes you realize like we don't have forever, and so I always think it's very humbling to read things about that or to think about those things. And so that book gives you that little like, oh shit, I gotta shut up and go now because I might not have tomorrow. Another book that I bought in a boutique. Boutiques are great for books because they like hand pick very specific books, and it's not like overwhelming. You could just go see this book and pick it up. This book is called Dear America, Notes of an Undocumented Citizen. This guy, Jose Antonio Vargas, he's Filipino, and he is known as the most famous undocumented immigrant in the USA. He is still undocumented to my knowledge. He DM'd me back on Instagram when I posted this on my story, which made me really excited. But he was actually a Filipino who came to the States and didn't know he was illegal for years and years and years. He was raised separate from his mother, because many immigrant stories are like that, right? Like you can either take your kids one by one, or you don't take any of your kids, or you send your kid without you, and it's just like this very painful thing that I relate to, obviously, because my entire family, including my dad, was in Brazil for 12 years and I couldn't see them until luckily my mom married an American, and so then it worked for me. But for Jose, like, it didn't work out like that. And I think it's really important for non-immigrants to read this, because it'll give you an idea of the kinds of questions that we, as undocumented immigrants, get asked. Immigration is not something that you deal with unless you're close to somebody who's an immigrant. Nobody's gonna know about something unless it affects them or their loved ones. And so when you read something, it opens up that portal for you. This book is also really cool because it's talking about, like, when you're a Filipino, for instance, and similar to like many cultures that don't fall into the black or white spectrum, you start seeing how Americans see black and white as so definitive that when they see somebody that's Filipino, like Jose, they don't know what to call him. Is he black? Is he white? He's neither. He's freaking Filipino. And you don't really know where you fit. And he was also a high-profile journalist, which is really crazy because he'll go on national television and talk about his undocumented status, and he inspired other people to do the same. And that's like the scariest thing, because when you're undocumented, you live in fear. Trust me, for 12 years, I was living under covers in the library reading books. You see how it all ties in? How we feeling? How we feeling? We feeling good? We learned it? We learned it? We gonna pick up some books today. I picked up this book, If Beale Street Could Talk, by James Baldwin, and it's really interesting because it's a fictional story and now a motion picture movie. The movie's good, but I don't know, I liked reading the book first because it gave me my own imagination of what it would look like. I love this book for a few reasons. It's hard to get into, so it feels like an accomplishment once you actually get through the first 2 chapters because the writing is choppy, but it gets good. Another reason is it's very raw. Like, he will say the C word up in there, and he's talking about the story of a girl who is in love with this guy, and they have been in love since they were kids, and they're like best friends and lovers. Black guy gets accused of rape, gets thrown in jail. Girl is pregnant with his baby. She's trying to prove that he didn't do it. The system is not in their favor, and the story talks about what that looks like back in the day. Like, this book is like, I'm pretty sure this book is in the 70s. A lot of the same themes that happen in this book are very relevant today. And so that is one reason alone where I think a lot of African American and even non-African American people should read this, because it'll open your eyes to seeing how history repeats itself, even if it is a fictional tale based on real events. It's really good. I picked up this book, Smart Cuts. I really like business books just because, you know, she a businesswoman, follow Shut Up and Go, and look at all of her articles online. I think business is such a big part of our everyday life. It would be foolish not to know more about it and to know how those people became successful. My core thinking is, if you are a human being and I'm a human being, we are capable of the same things. Maybe it's harder for me. Maybe it's harder for you. But it's possible. And every time I read a business book, I'm further reminded of that. So this book is called Smart Cuts. It is basically about how people who have gotten to the top have hacked the system. So it's not like you're breaking the rules. It's like you're finding a way around the rules and you're still accomplishing the same things. Whether you agree with it or not, this is basically just telling you why people are billionaires and others aren't and how they did it. And what's really cute is that there are these little Dr. Seuss quotes every chapter.
You know, why fit in when you were born to stand out?
Here's like a nugget from this book. If you fail, instead of thinking about what you could have changed, you're gonna blame it on external factors because we all have fragile egos, and it's easier to blame it on the lighting wasn't right, the timing wasn't right, as opposed to being like, I need to do better. And when you have that approach, you don't think about how you can change your circumstances, and so you keep failing. Whereas if you see somebody failing, you'll see what they did wrong, and then you have a better chance of succeeding. Mind-blowing, right? It's psychological. On the subject of business books, this one I read in one night, same boutique. I love this boutique, it's great. It's called Getting There, and it's a book of mentors. And so actually one of the things that Shane Snow from Smart Hacks talks about is the importance of getting mentors, because then you're able to learn so much more information at a quicker pace, which is a hack on its own. And you could do that by having a mentor who will tell you exactly what they did to get to where they are, which took them 30 years, whereas you just learned it in 30 minutes. So this book, if you can't access these very, very famous and powerful and knowledgeable people to be your mentor, this is the book that will give you nuggets of those mentoring tips. Every single chapter highlights a different person that is very successful. For instance, John Paul DeJoria. He was one of the founders of John Paul Mitchell System, so like the hair care products, but he also founded Patron. What we don't know about this man when we drink a shot of Patron is that he was homeless and lived in his car. And that was all because he was trying to sell hair products door by door to salons, and they didn't believe in him until they did. There are pearls at the end where he'll list out in bullets advice. Okay, the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people do all the things unsuccessful people don't want to do. Most people don't want to work more than they have to. They do the minimum and are paid to do it. That's not the way to get ahead. Always do the best you can, not the least you can get away with. When you do your job, even if it's cleaning an office, do it as if somebody you want to impress is watching your every step. And I used to clean offices, and this man is telling me exactly what I used to do. I was the best toilet bowl scrubber in the office, dude. I was killing that game, killing that poop on the side of that porcelain. Anyways, this is just one chapter, but other people who are highlighted in this that are notable: Anderson Cooper, Michael Bloomberg, the woman who invented Spanx. Like, ladies, y'all know you want to know about that story. The creator of Mad Men, one of the best shows in entertainment in general, he was like broke and living off of his wife's paycheck for years. These are things you don't think about when you watch an amazing show. You don't think about how hard it was for that creator to convince people to believe in their idea. For Damon and Jo, we were denied for 2 years by executives because they didn't think that a young travel show would sell.
Hello, welcome to the Damon and Jo channel. I'm Jo. That's Damon over there in Paris. And yes, we are young travel entrepreneurs. We have a company called Shut Up and Go, all about young travel and global content for inspiring others to shut up and go.
Getting there is not only a book that gives you tips, but it'll tell you that people who are successful have all overcome some serious shit and overcome a lot of failure, and they know that it's consistency and resilience at the end of the day. And the last two are the international books that I recommend. Every time I travel, I try to pick up a book just to have it in my mind and like think about these different languages, because obviously I'm in Los Angeles here and slim pickings when it comes to the international friends that I have, zero. The first book is in French, and it's really, really good for me specifically because it matches all of the things that I personally relate to. It's really bizarre. This book is talking about Dandara, who's this freed slave in Brazil. She was born in this area, what they call a quilombo, which is a freed slave village. And she was born a woman, and so, you know, women are taught to clean and to cook and help with the family and like whatever, gather and stuff like that for the quilombo, but she wanted to be a fighter. And so the book is chronicling like her adventures and being kind of like a rebellious, rambunctious woman. You know, if you were a freed slave, you still had that risk of being captured and being put back into slavery. So this book talks about all of that. And it's fictitious, but it's obviously based on true historical evidence. But really at the core, this book celebrates the power of women during this time and in general, like the force, la force des femmes. The last book is actually one of my favorites. It's Italian and it's called Per 10 Minuti, and it's a book about an author. She moved with her partner to Rome and she hated the experience. She was far away from her friends, her family. She just like hated her life and she was really depressed. They were not in a good place, like her and her partner. I think they got separated. And this is talking about how she went to the psychologist, and the psychologist told her, why don't you, instead of being depressed, think of what you could do every single day for 10 minutes, and only 10 minutes, and you do that for a month straight and tell me how you feel. And so that's why it's Per 10 Minuti, which translates to for 10 minutes. And it's really, really cool. I think just the exercise in general is interesting. She does everything from making Nutella pancakes to trying a dance class on YouTube and like going to make a new recipe, going to the store. She meets all these people in her neighborhood, and that's all because she's prompted to do something new for 10 minutes every day. It's one thing to be in a crappy place in silence, right? Like, we all have bad days. It's another thing to have your entire month of crappy moments in a book that's bought by hundreds of people and publicized. And I think that's why when you read a book that moves you, you need to think bigger than just, oh, it moved you. You need to think about how hard it was for that author to put those thoughts on paper and to put it at the mercy of editors who will rip it apart. When people write, it's not like they're just copying a textbook on a notebook. They're pouring their souls out on pieces of paper. And so when I read a book, I'm always like, good for you. Like, yes, I support you, you author. Like, you did it. And I hope to one day be there as well. Can you please do me a favor and comment below your favorite book? If you're from abroad, even more important, because a lot of times we don't get access to like what is popular in France, what is popular in Italy, what is popular in Latin America, Brazil, all these different places. And that's it, y'all. I gotta like put some more deodorant on. It's hot. That was a lot. Damn, that was like I gave a college lecture for free. Y'all know what I'm saying? We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bisous, baci, ciao. It's not like a YouTube video or an Instagram picture where before you even think about what you personally feel about the post, you scroll down to the comments to see what other people think so that then you can form your opinion. It's just you and the book. It's just you and the page. So I have had time to digest not only like these books, but the fact that it's a very intimate relationship that I have with the books, because y'all ain't ruining it for me until like I read the comments in this video, and then I'm like, damn it, I thought I liked that book.